Notes. Well, it is now my honor to welcome Barbara Hannigan to the Ojai live stream. She really needs no introduction, but because I have to, I'm going to introduce her.
All right, I'm curious what you're going to say. Go ahead.
She is arguably the new music soprano of the world. She soloed with every major orchestra from Berlin Phil to the LA Phil. She's collaborated with the leading composers alive right now who've written her songs, song cycles, operatic roles. She is a conductor that is in high demand. Her recent album, which is right here, a little plug for a recent album, has won a Grammy and a Juno. And a Juno, if you don't know, is a Canadian Grammy. And
it's a Canadian Juno.
Okay, yeah. Well, I was going to say, and she's also a fellow Canadian, O Canada. I'm a Canadian too. So, welcome to the Ojai live stream.
Thank you.
So happy to have you. It's right. They hate it when you say the Canadian Grammy.
Well, yeah, I know, but let's not talk about that.
So tell me about your experience here at Ojai so far,
Yeah.
and just your overall take of the festival.
Yeah, well, this is the second time that I've been to Ojai. I came here 1.5 years ago when it was pretty sleepy, and I just wanted to look at the different venues and check out the spaces and get the feel. Then I arrived from Europe just a couple of days ago, and the rehearsals were in full swing. So I was starting to feel, okay, how intense the days leading up to the festival are. And then yesterday, of course, we started the festival. And it's funny because I don't have to perform, but my adrenaline is going like in anticipation of next year, because I can feel how much energy it's gonna give, but how much it's also gonna take. It's very, very special. The audiences are extremely curious, open-minded. They've got a lot of stamina.
Yes.
Clearly. And so I'm really, really looking forward. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about what you have planned.
Yeah.
I saw on the little teaser that they threw out there that you are planning, first I saw on there was Stravinsky's Rake's Progress.
The Rake's Progress, yeah. I'm super excited about that. The first opera that I ever sang, the first major role I ever sang was Anne Trulove in The Rake's Progress. I was 23, and now, more than 20 years later, I'll be conducting it as the first major opera that I conduct. And I'm very close to that piece. I've sung in 3 or 4 different productions of it, and for me, it's a very special opportunity to revisit it now as a musician, with more experience, with more, also experience as a singer. And what I've decided to do is, instead of hiring like famous friends, I decided that for the soloists in the opera, I wanted to hire young professionals, more or less unknowns, and they're part of a program that I started called Equilibrium.
Really cool.
Are you going to ask me about Equilibrium?
I am going to ask you about it, but go ahead,
Great.
please.
Equilibrium is this mentoring initiative that I started 1.5 years ago, because I thought, that first period, that first substantial period in a professional career for anybody, not just for musicians, but for anybody, is very fragile. The moment when you're done all your training, all your residencies, all your internships, you're out of school, and all of a sudden you're thrown into the professional world. It's very intense, and there are a lot of lessons to be learned that don't just have to do with your particular trade. So it's not just about your skills as a doctor or your skills in tech. Or your skills as a musician. It also has to do with psychological skills, mental toughness, interpersonal skills, really how to handle all the different things that are thrown at you as a young musician. And so I started this mentoring initiative, particularly for singers, to try and kind of be a hand to them while they go through that phase. And I auditioned 350 singers from 39 countries. Yeah.
Wow.
And I chose 20.
Must be hard to choose.
It was hard to choose, but actually, when I knew it, I knew it.
Yeah.
I chose 20, and they're from 11 different countries. And next summer here, we will have 7 singers from Greece, Guadeloupe, Cuba, England, Ireland, Singapore, Wales, and Australia.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they're here
Pretty
to sing
amazing.
the Rake's Progress.
They're here to sing The Rake's Progress. One of them is going to also sing Lonely Child by Claude Vivier, which is a piece.
Oh my God.
I know.
We're the same thing. We were like
I know.
this.
It's such a beautiful piece. It's a heartbreaker.
Yes.
And I've sung that piece a lot. I'm going to now conduct it with this young soprano I've been mentoring named Aphrodite, and she is absolutely like her name. She will steal everybody's hearts. And also a piece by Mark Anthony Turnage called Twice Through the Heart. Very special piece for mezzo and ensemble. And a young conductor who I've been mentoring, he will conduct the band for that. So it's really, it's going to be really special.
Really cool. So I read in the little hint about next year that you want to pay homage to like previous Ojai people and directors and like the history of this festival. Is that correct?
Well, it wasn't my intention, but it's kind of happened because there's a piece that I'm going to sing by Griset. It's called Quatre chants pour franchir le seuil. It means 4 songs to bring the soul over the threshold. And it's a really cathartic, powerful, intimate, strong, fragile piece by Griset for soprano and 15 instruments. It's a piece I've sung a lot. I've sung it with Simon Rattle in Berlin and Alan Gilbert in New York Phil. And I really, really wanted to bring it to Ojai because it's never been done here.
Cool.
And I needed a conductor. So I asked Steve Schick to conduct
wow.
it. So, and he's one of my heroes, and he loves the piece as much as I do. So it's the first time that we're actually working together, and I'm in utter anticipation of the rehearsals for that, and of course the performance eventually.
Well, because Stravinsky was once director here.
Yeah.
Copeland.
Oh
has
yeah, I
been
see what you're saying.
Copeland has been
Yeah.
a 5-time music director
Yeah,
here.
we'll be doing music for the theater by Copeland.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And you mentioned Steve Schick.
Steve Schick,
And
yeah.
you. So
And me.
you're in great company.
And I'm inviting Jack back. So the Jack Quartet's going to come back, and we're going to do the Schoenberg String Quartet together, which is another of my
Wow.
favorite pieces. And it's their first time doing the Schoenberg String Quartet, so this is great because I've sung it a lot with all different quartets, and I'm really happy that it's like virgin territory for them, so that we can build our own way of doing it together.
So can you talk a little bit about your, relatively recent move in the last few years to conductor
Yeah.
and how that happened?
Yeah, in 2011, I made my conducting debut at the Châtelet in Paris, so it was not a small venue. And that was with a piece by Stravinsky called Le Renard, the Fox, and a piece by Ligeti, which I sing a lot. And so that was the debut. And in fact, the conducting really began as one concert. I'm a full-time singer, and I wasn't thinking about changing my career. I was invited to conduct one concert on a festival that Esapeka was running in Paris, Esapeka Salonen, and that's what I did. But as I was preparing for this engagement, I had a very strong feeling of affinity for this aspect of music making. And I was very moved by the rehearsals. I was very humbled by it, And so when it was over, the next morning, the phone started to ring and offers started to come in for me to conduct elsewhere. And I decided that I would consider that very seriously. And so that was in 2011. And now, 7 years later, conducting is 50% of my time. So I spend half my season conducting, and I spend the other half singing opera and some concert work as well.
And how are you choosing the repertoire you conduct?
Well, from the heart, like everything. I mean, you have an urge, you have an urge to do certain repertoire, and that's how it happens. I don't do exclusively contemporary repertoire at all. I'm exploring all kinds of composers, and I make special programs, and because I suppose I'm a singer and actor, the programs have a certain dramaturgy. They have a kind of dramatic direction through them. That's how I like to make programs, and so it's really changed my life.
And how's it influenced you as a performer, being a conductor?
As a singer?
Yeah.
I think the two really feed each other. I mean, basically, as a singer, you're a professional breather, right? You really, that's your skill, and that's something I can really bring to orchestras. That breath, that space and time, especially for players that don't need to breathe through their instrument. And it's not just that, it's the way that I make music and my particular imagination towards how to develop a piece and my feeling for harmony, whatever, and that every conductor, every leader brings in. And I think I like to work in a very collaborative way. I like to make chamber music with as many people as possible. That's really how I like to work.
Sounds amazing. So next year I see on the list John Zorn as well, and William Walton and Terry Riley.
Yeah, in C.
Yeah, a piece that I played many times.
Oh, did you? Yeah, I did it in Holland a long time ago. It'd be nice to bring it back. Steve Schick is going to lead all the rehearsals for that one also. Yeah.
So with all this programming, is there for you a link, besides you being the link between all the stuff?
I don't want to say what the link is yet. I have a feeling about it, and that may end up being the title for the season, but I'm not totally clear on it yet because I'm still tweaking it. Because now that I've been here and I'm feeling the space and I'm feeling the movable feast that Ojai is, I'm still making changes. So I need to, I need to find the equilibrium of it before I can give really the theme. And probably once I give the theme, I'm going to change my mind again.
I love it. So the artist next year, you mentioned already Equilibrium Young Artists.
Yeah.
Jack Quartet.
Jack Quartet.
Steve Schick.
Steve Schick.
You obviously.
Yeah.
Ludwig.
Ludwig. Ludwig. So Ludwig.
Yes.
Just a little plug for the CD. Now Ludwig are the orchestra on my Juno award-winning CD, which also won the Grammy, which is the American Juno. And they're a Dutch collective, and I lived in Holland for 20 years, and I played with a lot of musicians, early music, contemporary music, large ensembles, small ensembles, Asko Schoenberg, the Radio Chamber Orchestra, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And out of all of these ensembles was born a kind of phoenix, which is called Ludwig, which is a collective of like-minded musicians who can go from large to small, who are very proactive. We've been working together since 2012. We actually, the first thing we ever performed was Facade, and they're extremely versatile, and they can sing as an orchestra, you will hear.
Wow.
So they're super special, and it's my honor to bring them here to Ojai and to bring them to this public.
Well, next year, I'm excited already.
Yeah.
I really hope I'm here at this desk next year so I can once again present your music and do this again. Tomorrow night, they're performing Hans Abrahamson's Schnee. Schnee.
It means snow.
Snow.
Which is something I don't think is going to happen this week.
You have a close relationship with Hans.
Yeah.
He's written for you, Let Me Tell You,
Yeah.
a song cycle for soprano and orchestra.
Yeah.
Can you talk about him and the collaboration?
Yeah, so Hans Abrahamson is a Danish composer.
Oh, if I can correct, sorry, Sunday at 1 p.m. I said
Sunday
the wrong day.
at 1 p.m. I'll be back in Paris by then. But I know Schnee very well, and it's such a beautiful piece. It's the reason why I commissioned Hans, or I had orchestras commission Hans to write this song cycle, orchestral song cycle for me, which is about Ophelia, and it's called Let Me Tell You. And we gave it its American premiere with Cleveland Orchestra in Cleveland with Franz Welsermost, and also we took it to Carnegie. And it's an exploration of Ophelia 500 years later, looking back at her life, looking back at how things went with Hamlet, and with some distance and some poignance and still a bit of raw emotion as well. It's a very beautiful piece. Can
you talk about, both with Hans and with any composers written for you, about the collaborative process and what you go through?
Sure. I've given over 80 world premieres. So since I was 17, that was my first world premiere. And so I've been working with composers all my life, and that takes a large part of my time. And every composer is different, and the process of working with each person is unique. This is also, where I think the psychological importance comes in, of knowing how to speak, how to cajole, how to be vulnerable, how to make mistakes, how to fail, how to triumph with another person. And sometimes when I'm working with a composer, I really feel like I'm their channel. I'm channeling their voice. And other times I really feel like we're partners, like we're hand in hand in the piece, and I'm their editor, and there's a real working together. And sometimes I even feel like co-composer. And that doesn't mean I've written a note. It just, sometimes that feeling really comes in. And it's an obligation in my life that I take very seriously, and about which I'm very passionate.
So will there be world premieres? I assume there will be next year.
I'm not sure. There will be American premieres, but I don't know if we're going to have any world premieres. We shall see. I can't announce anything about that yet.
Okay, keep it on the DL. One of your great collaborations with George Benjamin,
Yeah.
and beginning with Written on Skin.
Written on Skin, yeah.
And since I've read online that it's now the most performed opera of the 21st century.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah.
And the title role written for you,
Yeah.
right?
Well, not the title
role, sorry.
The leading
role.
The leading female role, Agnes. And I'm actually in between productions of George Benjamin's new opera. I just finished 2 weeks ago in London, or maybe not even, yeah, about 2 weeks ago, a new opera of his called Lessons in Love and Violence. And on Wednesday next week, I will start in Amsterdam, final rehearsals to do that opera.
So you popped back from Europe for this, and
Yeah.
went back there again.
I came here just for this, and now I go back to Amsterdam and will perform George's opera in Amsterdam another 6 times. So it's very special. In that one, I play really quite an unpleasant character, not without sympathy, but at a certain point, somebody puts a gin and tonic in my hand, and I get a cigarette, and it's pretty well all downhill from there. Yeah.
Can you talk just briefly about working with him directly and
Working with George?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can actually read about it because I curated Classical Music magazine this
Right.
month, and I interviewed George. And
I
it's
read it.
Oh, did
It's-
you read
it's
it?
fantastic.
It's a good interview because we're talking like colleagues that really know each other. Yeah, working with George is very special. He's extremely meticulous. He knows exactly what he wants. Sometimes this I find really intriguing is that he actually writes in a way that is deliberately uncomfortable. He confines the voice, not just with me but with other characters. And he does it because he's trying to show a kind of dramatic confinement of the character. And it's not fun, but it's effective. And I think I'm not looking to have fun every single note I sing. And he certainly gave me enough notes that I really can soar and have fun and get angry or whatever the character needs. But of course, the other thing about working with George is that he conducts, and not all, but most of the performances of Written on Skin that I did with him, he was conducting. And Lessons in Love and Violence, he has been conducting every rehearsal and every performance in London, and we will have the same in Amsterdam. So when you've got the conductor in front, the composer in front of you, you know, in my case, it doesn't elicit fear. It elicits a kind of deep compassion, because I know the life of composers. I know how hard it is and how lonely it is and how hard they work. And so the feeling that I have when they're in front of me, I feel really like I'm singing for them, and I owe my best to them, you know, to serve their music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With our remaining time left, can you talk about your Grammy and Juno award-winning album?
Crazy Girl Crazy. Yeah, Crazy Girl Crazy. Well, it's an exploration kind of that centers around the character Lulu, Alban Berg's Lulu, the opera, and a role that I've sung a lot, which is very dear to me. And so what I did with this album, it's kind of a concept album, I suppose. The central work is the Lulu Suite by Alban Berg, which is a 33-minute suite that he made as a kind of promotion for the opera, with material from the second and third act. After the Lulu Suite is a suite from Girl Crazy by George Gershwin, which I see as a kind of mirror and companion piece for the Lulu. We constructed it like that. We, meaning Bill Elliott and I, Bill, the Tony Award-winning arranger and composer, and we made this suite from 4 songs from Girl Crazy for exactly the same instrumentation as the Lulu Suite. And I sing and I conduct that suite. And in that suite, the orchestra sings as well. And we're going to be bringing that to Ojai.
That exact piece.
Yes.
Amazing.
And the first piece on the Crazy Girl Crazy CD is a pivotal work of the 20th century by Luciano Berio. It's called Sequenza 3, and it's for solo voice. And it's about a woman who is searching for home. That's really what it's about. And I see that as very much connected to Lulu because, you know, she was a character who had been basically, all we know is that she'd been found in the street selling flowers outside a particular cafe at 11 or 12 years old. And so when I sing the Barrio Sequenza 3, I also connect it to Lulu. So the whole Crazy Girl Crazy CD is very much related to Lulu. And then in addition to the CD, in the box, is also a film called Music is Music by Mathieu Amalric, the French filmmaker. And that film is about, it's a beautiful poetic portrait, which is part documentary but part love story about how this CD was born.
Amazing. Well, go buy the CD, and I am looking forward to next year's Ojai Festival, where Barbara Hannigan will be our music director. And I've just heard the amazing things you have planned. It's going to be another incredible year. Every year here is incredible, and every year is so different.
Yeah.
Cannot wait. We're going to take